Hello, this is Father Hightower, and welcome to Vox SFX, the voice of St. Francis Xavier Parish in Missoula, Montana. We are so pleased that you have joined us. Your participation enriches our entire community. We hope that our show serves as a point of light, helping to deepen our understanding and experience of the Catholic faith in history. So join us as we seek through prayer, study, interviews, and discussion the roots of the practice of our faith. God bless.
The sunset over an ocean after the storm. A mountain cloaked in majesty. Rivers running through a green pasture. All of these things inspire us to consider creation, to consider the beauty of what God has made for us. At the intersection of faith, science, and observation, we find this idea of divine beauty. How can we think about this, though, when we approach this demonstration of God's love, when we marvel in this creation? What is the theology of this? How can we find God in even the little things? Today, Father De La Rosa joins us to talk about this concept of beauty and how it can enrich our faith life and lead us to a greater appreciation and understanding of our Lord. With me in the studio today is Father De La Rosa. Father, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're one of our traveling priests that likes to come through. How are you enjoying Montana?
It's been great. I've been here a little over a week. It's been good. The weather's cooperated. I've been here before, so it's a good place to relax.
Nice clean air and a break from the city for a while, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, speaking of which, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I'm a high school chemistry teacher at Examen Jesuit High School in Los Angeles. It's in South Central. I've been there for 6 years now. It's a good experience teaching high school students chemistry. I like chemistry, so it's a win-win.
Well, how did you come to be in Central LA?
I had been working in Portland and I wanted to go back to the classroom, and my provincial was open to the idea, and there was an opening for a chemistry teacher at Examen Jesuit.
A lot of people I find either really enjoy working with high schoolers or really do not enjoy working with high schoolers. How are your students for you?
It's a challenge, especially post-COVID. The impact of COVID on learning is evident. And since I work with kids who are inner city, mostly Latino, African Americans, they're already been at a disadvantage compared to other places. But I've had some really good students over the years. It's also a challenge for me to adapt in that context.
Sure. Well, I imagine that wherever you teach, there's going to be a little bit of a different flavor, if you will, to
yes.
kind of what's going on. It's good that you're exercising patience and working with people who may be at a slight disadvantage, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of chemistry, we're going to be talking a little bit about the synthesis of science and faith today. As a scientist yourself, as a chemistry teacher, do you find that there's any challenges in terms of teaching and also maintaining our faith?
When I wanted to become a priest, especially to be in a religious order, one of the things I wanted to do is to be an educator, to be teaching. And in my background is in science, so I wanted to be able to teach that. And the Jesuits afforded the best opportunity to be able to do that, to teach and to be a priest. And teaching high school in chemistry is like teaching anywhere else. The only difference is I'm a Jesuit.
If I understand you correctly, did you say that you were involved in science before you joined the Jesuit?
I actually got a doctorate in chemistry and had taught at university for a bit. But I wanted something different, and so that's why I joined the Jesuits.
Well, and there's a long history of science and religion coexisting together. In fact, a good portion of the universities that have been established, particularly in Europe, were ones that were established by the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, moving from a more secular studies of chemistry into a religious setting, did you find that your understanding of chemistry, of God's creation, changed much?
I think the church has been very open about science and religion, respectful of the scientific endeavor. I mean, just the fact that the oldest universities were founded by the church indicated the openness to learning. and science is part of that. And you can look back at the history of the church, and you can see a lot of people who were priests or religious who were scientists, who were major contributors to science.
Like you say, there are a lot of nuns, priests, brothers throughout the histories who have made major discoveries that continue to impact our world and benefit us today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think of some years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I read this book called The Big Bang. And it was the first time I had heard of this Belgian priest, Georges Lemaitre, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's the one who theorized about the Big Bang. And so it's like, oh, here's a priest. So it's like, yeah, that's good. So the church is open to all those things. And then obviously it's been clouded over early on because of the Galileo incident. Everyone who has issues with the church thinks of, especially with science, the relationship between science and religion, go back to that time where Galileo was accused of heresy. But it didn't stop the church from pursuing science, and eventually the church acknowledged its mistake about Galileo. But the thing too is when you discover new things, there's always going to be some fear about the unknown. It's that this is going to change an entire worldview. And so the context of that time would indicate, it's reasonable, some of the responses. It's like we can think in hindsight, oh, there was a big mistake there, but that's hindsight. But if you were to go back to that era, then it seems reasonable that some reactions would be like that.
And that's an isolated incident,
too.
Yes. If you look at the long history of the church and science, there's a lot more congruency there.
Yes, that's true.
But again, you look at the Galileo, and it's easy to point to be like, oh, the church is anti-science. And then you've got hundreds of other examples where the church has proven herself not to be anti-science.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's something that's forgotten. I remember attending a talk some years ago, a physicist talking about science and religion. And he essentially cited the Galileo incident as why, he said he was an atheist. And so, but it's like just one incident.
Right.
And so not ignoring everything else. I mean, like look at Gregor Mendel. He was a monk, I believe. And Mendelian genetics, I believe. So hereditary. So people in the religious field do contribute to the scientific field, because they can see the complementarity of the two, that the two work together.
We had a priest, Father Kohler, on not too long ago, and he discussed an idea of his called divine mechanics. And in it, he argued that one of the holes that science, particularly physics, is facing right now is the exclusion of God from the equation. In saying that all of our models are going to take place without the understanding of God. And he was saying that this is a very limited way of looking at the world, because, of course, we understand that the God is present everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Well, science answers the question about the natural world. You have evidence. You need evidence. And that's the scientific method. You do experiments, you confirm it. I mean, like theories, like Einstein's theories, they're only becoming, the evidence over the years to prove, Einstein was right. The thing with God is we can't have an experiment. So there's no empirical evidence for that.
Do not test the Lord your God.
So science addresses the natural world, and they use the scientific method to do that. Religion, theology addresses the realm of God, spirituality, morality. Can we make an experiment to prove those things? As far as I know, I can't think of one.
It's down to a whole lot of reason, personal experience, and that kind of personal conversion, too. Yeah. Like you said, if you're talking with an atheist or an agnostic or something and they say, prove the existence of God, well, we can go back to the Thomistic proofs, but in terms of, like you said, a scientific method, it can be difficult.
Oh, yes, definitely. Here, I'm a scientist or a science teacher, and yet I believe in God. And I'm perfectly happy with that.
Do you find that your time with science, that your understanding of chemistry, gives you a greater appreciation of God's creation?
Yeah, I think so. It's as a scientist, I see the natural world scientifically, but I also see the natural world through the lens of God. I think it gives it maybe a deeper meaning than it otherwise would be.
Do you find, particularly with teaching, that there are any challenges reconciling the two worlds, or do you find that it kind of blends together fairly easily?
I mean, I'm teaching at the high school level, and I'm also teaching just a specific aspect of science, in this case, chemistry. So I haven't had really any kind of encounters with students about that, but I think I don't really see any issue there. I mean, if students ask me, I mean, I'd be happy just to say, and I think God is part of this.
But you don't necessarily need to include any sort of theology when teaching chemistry because it stands by itself.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, my job is to teach them so that they'll be ready for college. And if they want to become scientists, that they have the good foundations to make it through college.
So just as a quick aside, what's your favorite part about teaching?
I think when students get those moments of insight, that they got it, yeah, that's great to see that they get it.
I used to be able to work with high schoolers myself, and yeah, that witnessing the aha moment. There are a few things that warm the heart more than understanding that you helped contribute to that moment of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah.
So I also understand that you enjoy photography.
Yes, I do. I got into photography when I was in grad school. I mean, back then, just a simple point-and-shoot camera, nothing like what we have now. And then when I was a Jesuit volunteer before I joined the Jesuits, and there I lived in a place where there were 4 seasons. So in California, it's usually 2 seasons. And so to see the 4 seasons and the colors, and it just ignited imagination, and just to see such beauty. And then after that, it's just really I enjoyed taking pictures, especially nature scenes, landscape, things like that.
Do you find living in LA that it's difficult to find such a setting?
Yes, I live near downtown, and so it's a lot of buildings, and there aren't too many parks in the area. So I have to go to places to see nature. So with the traffic in LA, it's just also a challenge to get there.
Oh, that makes sense. So you were talking about when you were attending grad school, it was a really gorgeous place with 4 seasons. Where did you attend grad school?
Also, just clarified, the place I experienced the 4 seasons was when I was a Jesuit volunteer. I attended grad school at UC Santa Barbara. You get the beach and the ocean.
Which is also a gorgeous place down there, too.
Oh, yeah, it is. And that's it's its own beauty that's unique compared to Appalachia, where I was a volunteer.
Mm. Yeah, Appalachia. I used to live in Tennessee, and the Smoky Mountains were one of the most gorgeous ranges. And I live up here with the Rockies.
Where in Tennessee?
I was living in central Tennessee, Murfreesboro, just south of Nashville.
Okay.
But we would go east a few times to visit family, and it was positively gorgeous.
Yeah, I remember my community went to Smoky Mountain. And I still remember taking a picture on our drive there of the Smokies or the mountains. And it was dawn or shortly after dawn. And you could see the cloud, the fog cloud. It's images. And I took a picture of that. And unfortunately, I lost that roll of film in the Smoky Mountains. But I still remember that moment. And so when I see it, it's like, that's beautiful.
Well, at least you have the ability to retain it, because losing that kind of footage must be tragic.
Yeah, it is. It was. But, I mean, that's the one of the few that I remember from that role.
Well, at least you remember that one.
Yeah.
So do you find that having your experience with both science, chemistry, and photography, what does that tell you about the beauty of God's creation?
Beauty. What I see when I take pictures, and I've been taking a lot of pictures since I've been in the Northwest this past few weeks, it leads me to God. And some years ago, a Jesuit told me, and I was telling him some things about beauty. He said that's very Greek in the sense of the Greek contemplation, the highest level of contemplation. If I remember correctly, what he said is that contemplating the divine through beauty. And this is what I see when I see beauty, is contemplating the divine. And that beauty leads me to God. And that's what I see when I take pictures. Beauty leads me to God.
And I imagine taking pictures as well, it kind of encourages you to focus on that beauty, to find the right angles, the right lighting, to truly appreciate it.
That's right. I was taking pictures recently of flowers, and I was using a new lens that I've had it for years, but I rarely used it. And I said, I'll try this. And then adjusting it, I get this image of the edge was, a bit blurred, but the inside part was focused. And when I look at it, it's like, wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's like, it lifts the spirits up. And I think that's what beauty does for me. It lifts the spirit up. It makes me feel quite positive, feel closer to God.
Well, I think that's part of the reason that we have such ornate churches as well. That
Correct.
expression of beauty that lends the eye upwards.
It's correct. It lifts the person up. So it's like a way of communicating this, so that we're being lifted up towards God and God is coming down to us. And so we are in union or united. Isn't that what we want, to be in union with God?
So you've been able to get out and do some hikes while you've been up here?
Yes. When I come, I always hiked up to the L. You can see when you look beyond and you see the valley and you see beauty.
Any other hikes? I know Greeno's right there next to
Yeah, Father Hightower and I did up to Rattlesnake, so that was nice. And I've walked the neighborhoods, and that its own beauty as well.
It can be easy for those of us who live here to kind of make it very ordinary. We get up, we walk out the door, the beauty's there, but it was there the day before and the day before too. And some people may lose that awe, that wonder at seeing it. But coming up from LA, I imagine that it's, rather stark.
Yes, it regenerated my creative side. So in LA, I'm focused on teaching science and didn't have much time to, contemplate beauty, at least what I'm familiar with. But Los Angeles has its own beauty too. I look out from my window where I live and see the skyline of downtown and see the morning sunrise and the orange glow of the clouds behind the skyline, and the same thing and the sunset, the twilight hitting the glass skyscrapers. It's quite beautiful itself too. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who look at the industry of man and consider it rather ugly. But a lot of times when I look at it, I am in wonder at what God has helped us accomplish, at the productivity that we've been capable of, and the ability to change the world around us.
That's true. We have the talent, and those talents are a reflection of God's own talents that created this world. And when we use it rightly, we can see beauty in our own creation, and that leads us to the divine. I like nature, but I grew up in the city as well. There is beauty in the city, and we just have to be open to it. And when you see it every day, it's like sometimes, as you said about living here in Missoula, it's like you might forget the beauty around you. It's just ordinary. But, in the ordinary, I think this is where God really speaks. God reveals God's self.
God is in the moments of silence. When we're sitting there contemplating, when we're sitting there allowing that beauty to filter through our lens, like you said, we can be anywhere and see the fingerprints of God.
Correct. That's so true. But it's allowing ourselves to see that. Not be distracted. But if you were so busy, then do you allow yourselves to see that? Beauty is there. It's just we need to look for it.
What city were you originally from?
I'm an immigrant.
Okay.
So I'm from the Philippines. I grew up in San Francisco.
Gotcha.
Very beautiful city.
Oh, talk about a gorgeous skyline.
Yeah, and the Golden Gate Bridge, the beauty of man's creation.
And where we find those crossroads between what God has created and what man has created, we also find one of our very first jobs, tasked to us by God, which was stewardship of God's creation. Are we doing a good job?
Well, climate change indicates, we're not in that sense. But yet, the United States was the first country to have to create the national park system. And we have, over 60 national parks now, something like that. And we also have all these national recreation areas, national wilderness. We have places here in the country where the government moved by the people to create this. And so there's that reality. But at the same time, this other reality is we see nature being affected by what man has been doing, the industry. And it's trying to find a balance. And I think right now it's really hard to see that. I mean, we've been warned how many years now about the buildup of CO2, greenhouse gases. It's been around, and so it's just sometimes we've been slow to act. And it's a government thing. As an individual, we can contribute, but if the government doesn't do it, then what can we do?
Well, like you said, I can take out my recycling and make sure that I'm composting and doing the best I can, but I'm just one person.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can be involved. I mean, it can make a difference. But if there's no policy change from higher up, then it makes it more difficult. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but whatever we can contribute does help.
Why do you think it's difficult for us to make solid decisions about affecting nature? Like, how can we look out and say, this is okay? You know, this situation is okay. Let's perpetrate this situation.
Here in Missoula, I think it's so easy for the people, whether whatever political affiliations one is, like, they value nature here because it's your neighbor. you just walk around within the city of Missoula. Just walk around. In some of these neighborhoods, you can walk the streets. It's like you're walking in the forest. So it's in front of them. In other places, that's not the case. And so their experience makes a matter too. And here the experience, it's like, nature is important. And so that's why we work for it.
And like you said, it's not so much a political thing here, because whether you're one side or the other, we all go out and enjoy nature. Mm-hmm. We all enjoy being on the river, whether we're floating or fishing. We enjoy hiking. Some folks engage in hunting and whatnot, but it all is this deep appreciation. I think sometimes we take it for granted.
It's easy to do that. I mean, if you live along the coast, you see the ocean every day. And there's no need to make an actual visit to the ocean because you see it all the time. There's a danger to it, then people will recognize the value and don't take it for granted.
If you had a message for those of us who might be taking it for granted, for people who let the image of nature just kind of pass them by, what kind of advice would you have for somebody who's looking for a greater appreciation?
My recommendation is see the beauty in the ordinary, see the beauty in a simple flower, and then how does experiencing and seeing this beauty make you feel? Is it changing you? Beauty is really important for me in my own spiritual life. And I think beauty is not just seeing it, it's an experience. Because an experience means not just seeing it, it's about feeling it as well, and how it changes the person. I think if one is open to that beauty, it can only bring a change for the good. And see beauty in the ordinary, because there you will actually see the extraordinary.
And to do that, I think that we probably need to slow down a little bit and stop to smell the roses, as they say.
Correct, yeah. Here I've been taking lots of walks and also driving around town. I look around and see that. But in a busy day of a typical person, it's like, you work, you want to go home, get things done, and so the time doesn't permit it. But, if once a week, to do that, it does build on itself.
And this idea of slowing down, I'm going to dip out of our religion for just a moment. Mm-hmm. I believe it was the Dalai Lama who said, meditate for 10 minutes a day. And if you don't have time for that, 20.
That's a good one. Well, the Jesuits have something called the Examen, twice a day, midday and before going to bed, and 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at most. Even if you don't have time, just get a minute or two. And it's just reflecting on the day and of your experience of the day and how God was involved in that day. And I think that helps center a person.
Do other priests do this Examen, or is this something that's rather unique to your order?
It's in the Jesuits, but I know there's probably lay people here in the parish who are involved. The Ignatian programs probably have been exposed to that. But it's something that inculcated in Jesuit from the beginning, from the once we entered the novitiate. And it helps in praying because Jesuits, like everyone else, gets busy too. And so how do you make time for God? Well, even if it's for 1 or 2 minutes, that's important. It's about recentering oneself to see where God has been and where God is and where God will be.
We had an episode recently that stressed the importance of regular prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the references was made to a monastery where they get together to pray like 5 times a day.
Correct.
I think that suggesting that to most people, they'd be like, 5 times a day? How can I possibly find the time?
The monastic, they have those prayer periods in the monasteries. If a person can do it, that's great. But for those who can't, I recommend an examen twice a day. And if not, once a day. At least at the end of the day, you look back on it and see what was my experience or a person's experience has been, and where was God in this, and what is God asking me to do. And also it's important to do it with a sense of gratitude.
So real quick, in case our listeners are unfamiliar with the term examen, what's the process?
There are different versions, but the basic is we give thanks to God, okay? We acknowledge our shortcomings or failings of the day. We look at the day where God has moved us. What is God asking of us? And for whom should we pray for what? So usually it's 5. Some complete it to 4 steps. But those are things. It doesn't take that long. And it's like, what am I thankful for today? Well, I'm thankful today for being in Missoula, being relaxed, to be in a beautiful place, and for seeing God more clearly, things like that. And what's my experience of the day? Well, today has been a rather low-key day, but it's been peaceful. It's been quiet. I felt a good morning mass. So things like that. And where was God in all of this? So yeah, 5 basic steps can be done in 5 minutes or less. If you want to do more, do more. But Ignatius would say, don't do it too long, because you also have to go out into the world and do what you're supposed to do.
Well, and that's very, very key to the Jesuits as well, is that you're not just a contemplative order, you're very much involved.
Yes, correct. The term contemplative in action would apply. So yeah, the prayer method is for a person on the go, really. Could be driving, and I could be doing an examen like that, or I could be reflecting on an aspect of the examen, using the examen. So it's being aware of the world and where God is in the world and where a person is in that world.
When you find yourself in that place where you're able to appreciate what God has done and the beauty that you see, what do you feel?
I'd say, aha. Yeah, it's like a moment of peace. It's a moment of satisfaction is inadequate. A moment of peace, moment of joy, a sense of being in awe. Yeah, being in awe. I think that's a good term.
I like that. I think we could all use a little bit more of that in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure that you've had days where you've been too busy to kind of sit down and do that. Do you find that it kind of helps your headspace going forward?
Oh, yes, it does. I mean, even if it's just a minute, it does make a difference. And I think one of the things being a Jesuit, I already mentioned it about being on the go, is that it's being attentive to God in that moment, recognizing that God is near, God is by my side. Being on the go, recognizing that God is there, it's consoling, and that's good for the human spirit. You know, we need consolation in our lives. So many things going on in the world, that where's the consolation for people?
And knowing that we are cradled in God's love and have a physical representation of that helps.
Yes, yeah. The beauty of Montana, it's like the term big sky, I mean, I've heard big sky before, but it wasn't until I came to Montana 10 years ago. Like, now I know why. But there's beauty. And then the drives here, you can be contemplating, or at least still paying attention to the road, and just saying, you know, God, there's beauty here. And that beauty leads to the divine.
If a person doesn't live in a place like Missoula,
Mm-hmm.
let's say they live in a place like downtown LA.
Yeah.
And they're looking for that sense of awe. And they may not be able to drive to some place with nature. How do you suggest they find it?
As I said before, you can see beauty like in the sky downtown. And for me, it's like I've taken walks around my neighborhood. It can be rough, but at the same time, I can also recognize that God is there, and to see that they're not alone. There's beauty in that recognition that the people here are not alone. There's a beauty in just the people around. Beauty is not just in the nature. Beauty is in the people as well. And so when you look at the faces of people and seeing beauty in them, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's not just about physical beauty. It's that there's an inherent beauty in all human beings. And to be able to see that, I think is very important, to see that each person is beautiful.
Well, we all have the fingerprints of God on us as well. We were all
Correct.
created, and that makes us part of that creation.
Correct. I like to use the term, instead of using the image of God, that we are reflections of God. And that insight came to me from a retreat a while ago, that we are reflections of God. So when we see other people, we see God being reflected through them. And that's God's goodness, God's love, and all that.
What's the difference between the image of God and the reflection of God?
Well, here's the thing. When an image, I'm seeing God there. When I see reflection, I see myself in God. It's more, image is sort of away from me, whereas I see a reflection. It's like looking at a mirror. When you look at the mirror, you see your reflection. It's a subtle, nuanced thing. It was an insight. It's sort of like an aha moment for me. I guess it speaks the same thing, but it's just, I think, more personal.
It kind of goes along with what we've been taught, which is to every time we see a person, we're supposed to see the face of Jesus as well.
Mm-hmm.
What you've done to the least of me, you have done to me. And so that reflection goes, that's a pretty deep concept there, Father.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
We're coming to the end of our time here. Do you have any other words of wisdom, advice, or kind of reflections, if you will, for the listeners?
I think beauty is important. And it's something that the church, even though there have been theologians that have done it, I don't recall having a course on it when I did theology studies, the theology of beauty. I thought I was alone in this or not, but when I looked up online, it's like, there's quite a few. I think it's to recognize beauty in our surroundings, but also the beauty in you, to be in harmony. That requires an attentiveness to oneself and to one's surrounding. If a person can just be attentive to the beauty within and the beauty without, that I think will help a person draw closer to God.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today, Father, and sharing your thoughts on God's creation.
Okay, thank you.
And I hope we get to see you again soon.
I hope so too.
Thank you for being with us today as we walk as pilgrims this road together. If you feel called to learn more, please consider checking out St. Francis Xavier or your local Catholic church. All are welcome into our community as God loves us all equally. If you are interested in supporting the Vox SFX podcast, please visit sfxmissoula.org/donate. Until next time, go forth in peace and be the light of Christ in someone's day.
By Jove, we've got it.